Hello, everybody, and welcome to the inaugural episode of War, Sports, Politics, and Dragons. We might not talk about each of those things individually in every episode, but we're going to talk about them all and a whole lot of other stuff. It's going to be quite a ride, let me tell you. But first, let me introduce myself. I'm Dave, the Nerd Emperor, and I am married, a father of three. Just celebrated my 27th wedding anniversary. I'm a semi-retired former sports journalist with a heavy interest in military history. I'm also, as I said, the Emperor of the Nerds, and have been playing tabletop role-playing games, including things like Dungeons & Dragons and Pathfinder, Call of Cthulhu, and other games since 1982. Have and had a very active interest in politics, done a lot of studying on military history, and worked 17 years as a sports writer, so I've been around the block a few times. Also spent a few years selling life insurance door to door, worked in a factory, making Bibles and coloring books at a printing plant, delivered pizzas for a while, managed restaurants. I've done just about everything there is to do that doesn't require a securities license or a gun, and I don't go there. So welcome to the podcast. This is the first one. It's going to be pretty brief. As I said, we're just doing introductions. I'm just getting everything published and started and out there. We're based in Maryland, and it's a lovely state. They call it Little America for all of its pros and cons, and we'll be getting into some of those down the road. I've even had times where I worked at the beach, and let me tell you, that was fun. But it's a lot different when you're an adult, when you go to the beach. Let's make that our first topic real quick. What it's like working at the beach versus what it's like playing at the beach. Oh boy. Get in the Wayback Machine with me, and we will hearken way back to the year 1988. It's autumn. I have just dropped out of college. Only went for a month. I was ironically a journalism major and then ended up working 17 years down the road as a sports writer, so that shows you how much you needed that degree since I never got it. But I still ended up with 4 million words in print and multiple awards in the industry, of which I'm immensely proud, but I enjoyed working with the kids more than anything else. Anyway, back in 1988, I started working at a place called Photon. It was a laser tag arena inside of what is known as the Pier Building off of the pier in Ocean City, Maryland. Oh man, it was so fun back then. I can remember that I used to get free parking because I wrote the words Photon Employee on a piece of paper in a spiral-bound notebook, and I shoved it up in the windshield of my car on the passenger side and parked in the reserved spots so that people would see that, I worked there. So I got free parking. And then a number of my coworkers at the laser tag arena had family members who owned local businesses. For instance, there were two guys whose parents owned restaurants that were within walking distance of the pier building. So when we would get off work or before we would come in or whatever the case may be, we would stop by and get something to eat for free. So, hey, you're at the beach. I'm getting paid to play laser tag, and I'm eating for free. Well, it just so happened there were a couple of other kids that worked there whose parents owned hotels. So I got to stay at the hotel for free if I stayed over, because where I was living was in Cambridge, Maryland, which is a little over an hour one-way shot up US 50 eastbound to Ocean City. And sometimes it's late at night, you've worked a long day, you don't feel like the almost 90-minute drive back and then the almost 90-minute commute to Ocean City the following morning, so you could finagle a hotel room from a friend. Plus, there were other guys who had parents and families who had condos or homes in the Ocean City area. Shout out to Chuck D'Amico. If you're still around, Chuck's place was on 143rd Street, which, if you go 12 more feet, I think you're at Fenwick Island, Delaware. You're that close to the line there in the northernmost part of Ocean City. Spent a few nights at Chuck's place. Chuck was a great guy. We had some fun parties there. So back to where we were. I'm working at the beach, so I'm parking for free. I'm eating for free. I'm staying in the hotels for free. I'm getting paid. It's minimum wage, but I'm getting paid to play laser tag. it's great. I'm living the dream. I got a job back home, and then the part-time job. Well, winter breaks and Photon closes for winter, but then they reopen around Easter. I go back. I've got my day job where I was actually working for the circuit court as a temp at the time, handling paternity cases for 3 months to cover for a lady who was out with back surgery. So I had a full-time job, and then on Saturdays and Sundays I would go work Photon, and I was having a blast. I was living with my mom in our apartment at the time. We lived in an apartment complex called Crusader Arms, which is still there, and all things end, and my time at Photon ended in the summer of 1989, but then I got my very first job in sports journalism, working as a sports writer for the local paper in Cambridge at the time. It was called the Daily Banner. It was a 5-day-a-week daily. It was an evening paper, which meant the deadline was in the morning, and the paper would hit the streets in the afternoon and evening. So we would take the previous night's events, recap them in the paper, print everything up, go home, maybe catch a nap, then go out and cover something, work, in the evening, go home, catch a nap, come back in the morning, rinse, repeat. But, man, I had so much fun working at the beach, and me being a hetero guy, there were plenty of girls at the beach. I didn't have a lot of confidence with the ladies, but I had a few dates, and there were a few makeout sessions at various parties. But long and short of it is, fast forward, boom, let's go from the spring of 1989 to January of 1999. I get married. Wife is pregnant at the time. We were going to get married in the fall of 99, but moved things up because we had a third member of the family arriving. So we got married in January 99. Our oldest son was born that May, just around Memorial Day. And then another son comes 3 years later, and then our little girl, Paigey, comes in September of 2008. Well, fast forward a little farther to, say, 2015. We took a week to go to the beach, and I think that's when it hit me the hardest. I was no longer able to go play Photon because that place shut down in 1989 or 90. That was part of why I didn't work there anymore, was because I think in 1989 the place went under financially, and it's now Ripley's Believe It or Not Museum or something like that, which it's been for quite some time. But I wasn't getting paid to play Photon anymore, so I wasn't getting paid to go to Ocean City, so that in and of itself kind of sucked. Well, you get to the inlet to the parking lot, and I'm no longer an employee there, so I got to pay to park, and if you don't have your little parking ticket thingy that you turn in at the booth, then the maximum charge is $72 because they're charging you $3 an hour just to park your frickin' car. Now, we stayed at a hotel, and the hotel had parking, but this is just an example of what it's like on a day trip to the beach. Then, of course, you have to pay for your food because you no longer have those connections with friends whose families own restaurants, and you're paying for a family of 5, 2 adults and 3 kids. And you have to pay for the hotel room, and even over a decade ago in 2015, hotel rooms in Ocean City in June got a little steep. It was multiple hundreds of dollars per night for a decent room. I mean, there were some places you could stay that were cheaper, but some places that you could stay that were cheaper were also what we would refer to as slums. I mean, they're just some really low quality places there. There are some 0-star and half-star hotels, trust me, on Coastal Highway and in the greater Ocean City metropolitan area. So it was quite a hit in the purse and quite a hit in the heart and the psyche and the mind, and to go there married with 3 children, 30 years later, and realize, that was 26 years later, and realize, oh my God, everything costs a frickin' fortune. So suffice it to say, I'm not a fan of going to the Ocean City area anymore, because when you got to foot the bill for stuff, it kind of runs into money. There's still fun to be had down there, but something else I had noticed over the years was the decline in the quality of the merchandise. Everything is cheap stuff that's made in China, and it's incredibly low quality, incredibly overpriced, and has no durability, doesn't last. I mean, some of it's just decorations. You sit on your bookshelf or something, and it'll fall apart just sitting on your bookshelf. You know, God forbid you buy the kid a toy when you're at the beach, because that won't survive the day. Everything is so cheaply made. But yeah, that was reminiscent. That was quite a trip in the Wayback Machine there. So that's just one of the many things that we're going to talk about. I've done a lot of living in my 55 years, survived a half a dozen car crashes, been through all manner of heaven and hell, and, got a lot of interesting takes on stuff. I've met famous people, met some infamous people, been around the country a lot, been to a majority of the states in the Union, seen the St. Louis Arch, seen the skyline of Boston, been all over the place, and been to a couple foreign countries too, Mexico and the Bahamas in particular. Talk about slums. Some of those places look rough, but we'll get into those stories some other time as well, including the time we were on a cruise and we had the best ship captain in the world when a storm hit. But again, this is just me getting my feet wet, just trying to understand the ropes, and hopefully this thing will become a thing, and people will like it and subscribe. So please do like it, subscribe, spread the word. I'm looking forward to this, and I'm glad to have you aboard. Thanks for listening, and have a great day.